In 1998, Alabama Splash Adventure opened near Birmingham, Alabama. This is a small family park with a decent water park and a handful of small attractions. By far the biggest attraction in the park is Rampage. This is an ambitious Custom Coasters International Wooden coaster that sits on the hillside. This Woodie is intense with great airtime and extreme laterals. However, this coaster, and the park for that matter, has a history of sitting abandoned for several years. There were several times that Rampage sat closed with no activity for months or even years. All of this took place over 3 different closures spanning around 25 years. Why has Rampage struggled to stay operational and keeps rotting to crap? This is why Rampage kept sitting abandoned. Our story begins in August 1995, where Alabama Adventure was the brainchild of Mayor of Fairfield, Alabama, Larry Langford. He presented the idea of an amusement park near Birmingham. During his announcement, Langford gathered the backing of around a dozen cities. 11 of them came together to form the West Jefferson Amusement and Public Park Authority. With the help from the Alabama legislature, the group borrowed $60 million to build the park. The park, then known as Visionland, would incorporate several attractions within its opening year, including a new signature roller coaster. After the Alabama legislature approved the park, construction began in March 1996. While construction of Visionland was underway, planning for this new roller coaster were in the works. The park decided a major wooden coaster would be the perfect standout ride for this small park. Estimated at around $5 million, this Woodie would be built on the hilly terrain of Visionland. Luckily, a manufacturer around that time could provide them a large-scale Woodie for a decent price. In 1996, Oakwood in the UK contacted Custom Coasters International to build a wooden twister. During the first few years of operation, Oakwood was running as a family park with rides more akin to a family entertainment center. After adding the Snake River Falls water slide in 1996, they saw a sizable attendance increase that year, so they decided to transform into a full-scale amusement park. Originally, Oakwood wanted CCI to build them a smaller family coaster, but CCI offered a proposition. CCI would construct a larger, high-thrill coaster for a severely discounted price of £1.7 million or $2 million. This is so that CCI could use this Woodie as a showcase coaster for the European clients. This was a win-win for both parties, so Oakwood jumped at the opportunity to take the deal. This resulted in Megaphobia in 1996. This was Oakwood's second ever coaster, and it led to a large attendance increase. This wooden twister would produce powerful laterals and strong airtime. During the ride, you encounter several pops of airtime hills and unbanked turns teeming with laterals. It was a great Woodie. Megaphobia worked out for both parties as they each saw growth from that. So when Visionland approached CCI to build a new Woodie, they decided to clone Megaphobia. Despite the fact that that Woodie would be a terrain coaster while Megaphobia sat on flat land, CCI ended up cloning Megaphobia but made it 20% larger. The larger clone would end up being Rampage. Rampage would be ready for opening day. On May 23rd, 1998, Visionland opened to the public. This park included a Main Street shopping area, a water park, and an amusement park with a few solid attractions. The park's standout ride would be Rampage, a massive CCI wooden coaster identical to Megaphobia. The two coasters have identical layouts. To fit into Visionland's terrain, the profiling was tweaked in sections for Rampage, but the sequencing for both coaster matches. Rampage is far larger than Megaphobia. Compared to Megaphobia's 85-foot, 26-meter height and 48 miles per hour, 77 kilometers per hour speed, Rampage has a height of 120 feet or 37 meters and speeds of 56 miles per hour or 90 kilometers per hour. This makes Rampage the 10th tallest traditional Woodie in operations. Gotta emphasize the traditional. Rampage also has 20% more track with 3,500 feet, 1,100 meters of length versus Megaphobia's 2,956 feet, 901 meters of track. The ride begins with a right-hand turn into the chain lift. Once at the top, you turn 180 degrees to the left to plunge down the 102-foot, 31-meter drop. At the pullout, you sharply turn to the left into an airtime hill, pulling strong flowjector airtime. You then rise up into an unbanked turnaround filled with powerful laterals. After a 180-degree turn to the left, you drop down again into an elongated airtime hill with zero airtime. Rise up again into a right-hand turn, dip a little, and head back up into a right-turning hill. You descend down again into another airtime hill and rise into a 180-degree right-hand turn. Can you tell Rampage does a lot of turning? Drop a decently big descent into a speed hill and hop into another turnaround to the left. Straighten out for a quick second before continuing to turn left into a bunny hill. Then you sharply turn right and a big hop into the brakes. This completes 3,500 feet, 1,100 meters of track. Despite the fact that most of Rampage consists of turns, Rampage has a strong layout as the majority of those turns slam riders to the side. Then most of the airtime hills slam the passengers upward. This thing for real has better laterals than the Wild Mouse next door, and that's on top of the usual wood coaster shake. So Rampage has quite the intensity, and this is shown in the reviews. Rampage received positive reviews in its early years. It was ranked in the top 10 of coaster polls in the 90s. It's clear that people who got to ride it, assuming they can tolerate getting slammed around, enjoy Rampage. Unfortunately, not everyone gets to enjoy Rampage. After an initial successful opening year, attendance stagnated into the 2000s. The low attendance caused significant financial troubles for Visionland. The low attendance was likely caused by, well, who on earth is riding a roller coaster in Alabama, a state filled with rednecks and poverty with memes that I'm not gonna joke about because it's rather disgusting. Not only is the location inconvenient to access, but most locals don't even know of its existence. So most people drove past this park not knowing there was a park nearby. As a result, Visionland ran into major financial difficulties. This led to the park filing for Chapter 9 bankruptcy on June 4th, 2002. While the water park was left open for the 2002 season, Rampage, among other attractions, remained closed that year. This put the coaster's future into question. The problem with coasters sitting abandoned, especially in this situation, is that the coaster receives zero maintenance. I'm gonna hold off talking about why that's a problem for a bit because it matters much more later on. After several failed attempts from multiple parties to save the park, Visionland was bought out by Southland Entertainment. They refurbished Rampage and reopened it along with the rest of the park for 2003. Rampage would remain in operation for the next several years, but Visionland would continuously go through one operator after another. After rebranding to Alabama Adventure, the park was sold to Adrenaline Entertainment in 2008. After a few years under Adrenaline, the park would be sold again, but this would be detrimental to the park's future. In 2012, Alabama Adventure was sold to General Attractions, but they made a major change that would be a detriment to the park's growth. They reopened it exclusively as a water park called Splash Adventure. Meanwhile, the dry side would be closed indefinitely. Several rides were relocated to other parks such as the Vekoma Boomerang. Meanwhile, Rampage would be left to rot on the property. It would be left that way for several years. This was a major problem, as leaving Rampage to sit around caused concerns about the coaster's future. Like I said, coasters that rot to crap, especially if the park it's in also rots to crap, are given zero maintenance done. This in turn causes the coaster to be worn down further by nature. Eventually, this causes the ride to be unusable and thus become scrap junk. This is especially bad for CCI Woodies for several reasons. First, CCI Woodies already become unrideable much faster than the average wood coaster. I've already discussed this topic before, but the reason CCIs get rough fast is because CCI uses low quality wood on their coasters. Like, we're talking wood you can get from the local hardware store. While that type of wood is good enough to be used for DIY home projects, they aren't good to use on a wood coaster of that size and intensity. That's the equivalent of building a PC using parts found in the dumpster. The reason CCI used very cheap wood on their coasters was to reduce the cost of their projects. This is actually how Alabama Adventure got Rampage for a good price. Rampage reportedly cost $4.3 million to design and construct. Even back in 1998, that was a steal for a ride of that size. A good Woody like that in today's economy would have cost triple or quadruple that. So while the park was able to get Rampage for a good price, the downside is that they wear out much quicker, especially since most CCIs are lateral driven Woodies. So the extreme side to side motion speeds up the expiration date. So unless the park has really good wood coaster maintenance, most of them get brutally rough fast, but that's when the coaster is running like normal. When the same coaster sits abandoned, that's a whole different ball game. I use the term rot to crap a lot to describe brutally rough wooden coasters, but in this case, I mean it in the most literal way possible, because with Rampage sitting unused, the structure would just deteriorate under the Alabama sun. So within a few years, Rampage would become not just unrideable, but also unsafe. If you let Rampage rot for a few years with no activity and then try to reset the ride, I'm pretty sure it would literally break apart. It'd be like if you hotwire a Mustang rotting in the junkyard. The best example of this is Mega Zepp at Six Flags New Orleans. Now, I know that's an extreme example because that's primarily the collateral damage of Hurricane Katrina, but the logic still applies. Because after nearly 20 years of abandonment, Mega Zepp deteriorated so much that in order to run it again, it would essentially have to be rebuilt from scratch, which is exactly why Mega Zepp was demolished in November 2024. But that's exactly what General Attractions did to Rampage for several years. That's how Rampage sat from 2011 to 2015. It wasn't until 2014 when Alabama Adventure was sold to a family that actually cares about running a small family park. Before CCI was approached to build both Rampage and Megaphobia, Holiday World approached them to build a wood coaster for them. I know, it's a weird juxtaposition to jump back into the timeline to a park in Santa Claus, Indiana. And yes, I know, we are named for a town in no man's land. Sounds like something a drunk homeless on Xanax would name, but this part is important to the story. In 1995, Holiday World had CCI build the Raven. This wooden coaster put Holiday World on the map as several guests proclaimed it as one of the best wooden coasters. Raven ranked as the #1 wooden coaster on the Golden Ticket Awards 4 times, as well as being in the top 5 coasters in coaster polls several times. Despite being short, Raven has a world-class layout with equally strong laterals and even stronger airtime. The second half in particular is a powerhouse of intense lateral turns and airtime. Raven boosted Holiday World into the mainstream and began a full series of investments. In 2000, Holiday World came back to CCI for a crazier Woody in the Legend. This CCI Woody demonstrates their ability to do laterals, as the Legend is a constant barrage of side-to-side forces. During the layout, this twister bombards you with high-thrill, unbanked turns at every moment that will laterally throw you to the side with varying degrees of force. The laterals of Legend make this Woody feels like someone is driving GTA in real life. Legend is a crazy fever fest at Holiday World, but yet Holiday World got even crazier. In 2006, Holiday World got the Gravity Group to construct the Voyage. This new team consists of former CCI designers after they went bankrupt. Yeah, you thought I was gonna go a whole video without addressing that? Nope. After CCI went under, a lot of their former employers formed the Gravity Group. Since Holiday World has a history with CCI, they trusted Gravity Group to produce one of the craziest wooden coasters ever. This would be the Voyage. This Gravity Group wooden coaster has an absurd track length of 6,442 feet. During that long track length, you traverse a series of camelbacks, low turns of laterals, and bunny hills with even more airtime. That layout is what makes the Voyage one of the best coasters in the world. All 3 Woodies in this park play a part in being the great wood coaster trio. The wildest part is that all 3 Woodies are running very well. I mentioned earlier that wood coasters of those size and intensity need a lot of maintenance to keep them in good shape. Holiday World is the poster child on how to do great wood coaster maintenance. The Cook family, who owns Holiday World, does a drastic amount of retracting on large chunks of their Woodies every single year. They're proactive in replacing sections of wood on a consistent basis. This is why Voyage, Legend, and Raven still run smoothly for a wood coaster despite having aggressive layouts. That's kinda wild considering they have 3 different Woodies they need to maintain. Now here's how Holiday World ties back to Rampage. One of the members of the Cook family is Dan Cook. He was someone who helped with the operations at the park. In 2014, he and his sister Natalie branched off to form Cook Family Parks and immediately bought out Alabama Adventure. Under the new ownership, the amusement side was able to reopen for the 2014 season, but that side needed a lot of help. Because of the damage done by General Attractions, almost none of the rides remained, and those that did were in rough shape. This included Rampage, as it did not reopen with the park. Because of the years of neglect, that ride needed a lot of help to reopen. Like, we're talking full retracts, part replacements, everything. So over the course of 6 months, Alabama Adventure would spend $1 million to refurbish Rampage. The project included restoring the entire wooden track and partial sections of wooden supports. This restoration included a new set of trains from PTC. Then a new lift chain and control system were installed during this process. After a month of dedication and hard work, Rampage reopened on May 22nd, 2015. Rampage is running like it usually usually does with the powerful airtime and laterals, and Alabama Adventure has been doing a great job at keeping Rampage running. This Woodie is one of the upper tier of wood coaster rankings and is one of the better CCIs out there. This coaster is a great wood coaster that should be searched out, if only it was still running today. In early 2024, Alabama Adventure announced that Rampage would not be open for the entire season.
Brother, this guy stinks!
What? Nacho, get out! I'm doing editing work! When I first heard about that, my reaction was, what the heck happened here? Are you kidding me? That's another coaster down in 2024. 2024 in general was a bad year for the coaster industry. Not only were several rides delayed, but the problem was that too many notable coasters were tanked out and either left abandoned that year, or worse, imploded without any warning. Luckily, Rampage and Alabama Adventure are not in any immediate danger. The park released a video explaining why Rampage is not operating. In the video, they explained how they're going to perform a large retrack refurbishment to Rampage. Now, when coasters go through refurbs that cause said ride to be closed for a year, it's the result of the ride reaching the end of its service life and getting rough. But to Alabama Adventure's credit, they've been doing a good job at keeping Rampage rideable. There are plenty to nitpick about Rampage, but at no point did anyone call this horrifically rough. Maybe one or two potholes here and there, but for the most part, Rampage was comfortable. Again, the current owners know how to upkeep a CCI. The main motivation for this is to reduce maintenance cost. This entails the key problem of why most parks struggle to keep a wood coaster smooth. See, replacing parts on a wood coaster is not that hard. Unlike steel coasters where parts for those are much more specific, parts for wood coaster are much more standardized. More importantly, they're rightfully available, so replacing parts is not that difficult. The problem is how much of the parts you need to replace so often. It's no secret that wood coasters don't last as long as steel coasters. This is because wood, by nature, is weaker in strength compared to steel. This becomes more of an issue when said Woodie inserts high forces. This would then cause the Woodie to wear down even faster. As a result, large chunks of track for wood coasters have to be replaced every so often, and that retrack work gets expensive really fast. And a lot of parks simply don't want to put in either the work or money to proactively maintain them. Most of them only reactively replace the top two sections of wood every couple of years. That's not enough to keep a wood coaster for long. This is why not only are layouts for wood coasters so limited, but why we actually see a slowdown in wood coaster sales. In Alabama Adventure's case, they had to spend $500,000 per year on retrack work. That alone is already on the higher end of yearly maintenance. But then you need to remember that Alabama Adventure barely gets any guests to begin with. Most of their attendees spend their time in the water park. This results in basically no wait for Rampage at any moment. If you look at trip reports from when Rampage was operating, pretty much all of them tell you that Rampage was a near walk-on. In fact, in said trip reports, they have to wait for people to get on the train before they can dispatch it. So that $500,000 cost to maintain Rampage takes its toll on a park this small. So to reduce the cost, Alabama Adventure will perform a large retrack work to keep Rampage running for a long time. Their plan is to replace a lot of the high stress areas with new wood and steel tracks. Yeah, they're going for that option. While the park will no longer be a full wood coaster, the benefit is that it will make the coaster last longer and smoother. For this project, they're working with GCI and their Titan track. Their plan is to have this coaster running for the 2025 season. Well, it's currently June 2025 and Rampage is still not open yet. Apparently that retracking work is taking longer than anticipated. Based on the newest updates from the park, there wasn't as much track work to do as anticipated. So this will instead be a multi-year project. They are still working with GCI and their Titan track. So regardless of how long it takes, Alabama Adventure is doing whatever it can to preserve Rampage. Rampage deserves to be saved for being the great wood coaster it is. Without Rampage, not a single soul is going to the amusement side, so it's great that Alabama Adventure is working with whatever they can to preserve this Woodie, even if they couldn't get it open by opening day. But unless something comes up that causes further delays, Rampage should be back soon. Rampage should be back soon, better than ever. Thank you all so much for watching this video. This video is part of Ride and Lives where I discuss roller coasters and other amusement rides history and dynamics. Since you watched this video to the end like goats, be a homie and do these tasks shown on screen, especially pressing the subscribe button right here. That way you'll be alerted next time I upload a video. Also, I'm on TikTok and Instagram, so go give me a follow over there. Finally, watch more bangers of mine shown right here. This is the Coaster Flood, riding out.